The nonprofit landscape, the philanthropic landscape, is changing dramatically since the recession. Charitable giving nationally is down something like 13%, although it's gone up a slight tick past couple of years. And local agencies are reporting, about 90% of local agencies here in Fairfield County are reporting a dramatic increase in the demand for services. So their need for philanthropic support is at an all-time high. That also means that their need to reinvent themselves, to market themselves to people who are going to support them philanthropically, has got to change, because business as usual is no longer going to work. All nonprofit organizations need financial investment. I'm not going to lie to you and say, look, they want your in-kind donations, they want your contribution of time. Of course, that's helpful, they'll take that, but all ultimately want a financial contribution, because that's where they have the most flexibility themselves to leverage additional support and at the same time invest into the programs and services that they're running. But there's some creative and innovative ways for you to give financial support that at the same time helps them. For example, there's an organization in Greenwich called TAG. It's called the Transportation Association of Greenwich. They do the incredibly unsexy job of driving seniors and the frail elderly around the community. Not a program that a lot of people want to support. But they have dozens of giant buses that drive around the community every day. A wonderful opportunity for a business who wants to market to the senior community to advertise on the sides of those buses. Another example is a lot of organizations have very specific events. The United Way, for example, has a women's initiative called the Soul Sisters. That's S-O-L-E, as in the soul of a shoe. Great opportunity for a shoe company to get involved. Kids in Crisis runs their Hoedown. So you can think of all these various different events that organizations are planning that might tie into your particular models. Another thing you can do now, to go back to, or to continue to talk about fundraising events or financial contributions, is host shopping days, where you're inviting the nonprofits, supporters and friends into your business, where they're shopping and you're contributing a percentage of those, of the people in those sales back to the nonprofit organization.
In Connecticut, the average volunteer is, the value is $28.26. There's an independent sector which gives a dollar value for nonprofit hours. At Domus, we had 29 groups representing 421 volunteers for over 2,000 hours of service. That translates into about $200,000 of in-kind services provided just by the groups that we had. On a global view, Volunteer Match is the world leader in volunteer websites. They estimate that their return on their investment was $630 million and more. And Volunteer Match is just one small piece of the volunteer world. So actually, in-kind services represent billions of dollars of services that are given to nonprofits. 71% of employees who participated in a volunteer activity felt more positive about their company as a result. 50,000 employees showed that by increasing employee engagement levels, organizations can expect an 87% reduction in employees' probability of departure. So it's not just that volunteering is good for us, it is that volunteering is good for the business as well. Not just good for the business, but it is also for not just corporate health, but it's also good health for the individual. There was a study that came out where volunteers who volunteered for altruistic reasons, 4.3%, there was a reduction in mortality. So it says of the 2,000 non-volunteers, 4.3% were deceased 4 years later, compared with 1.6% of altruistic volunteers. So if in fact you volunteer for altruistic reasons, you can expect to live longer. One caveat is that those who volunteer for self-centered reasons, which is it's good for me and not for you, do not reap the same benefits. So can I just say that you must be volunteering for the right reasons? So the question is how do you start? What is it, the one thing that you can do? The one thing that you can do is to find an agency to partner with. Now, I'm here on the dais with our United Way partners, and of course, that could be the partner, which then opens you up to the entire world of volunteer opportunities. But there are agencies that meet your passion and need, and whatever that is, find that agency, partner with that agency. That organization will help you design a program that will meet your needs, both individually, your group needs, and also meet the services that you're expecting to have as a for-profit company.
If I was working for a corporation reaching out to communities, my suggestion would be to be very understanding of what your philanthropic needs are before you sit down with a nonprofit. Make sure you understand what the organization wants, and make sure you're clear about your goals when you go in there to talk to nonprofits. I try not to view the nonprofit world, although the obvious thing is we need money and we need to serve people, and that's great. But I also see it as a service. We're a service provider like any other business. So it's kind of like if you're going to look for a financial service, you have to know what your financial goals are. So if you're coming into a charity, you have to know what your philanthropic needs or your company's marketing needs are before you sit down. I think a lot of people here probably already know that, but it's also important to understand how much the nonprofit understands what they can do, what their geographical area is, and how they make sure that your needs can be met in that area. I completely agree that you want to give for the right reasons, but some of the things, for example, are what types of people does the nonprofit serve? What types of marketing can be done? How do you motivate your employees to work harder? I mean, we heard about the study. I actually have one of the studies right here that says happier employees are more motivated employees, and those who volunteer are definitely happier. So one thing to do is we have a program with the mentoring program where people volunteer and go into the community while they're at work. They leave for an hour, they go volunteer, and then they come back. And every one of those people, 268 of them in the Fairfield County area, all report back to us that it makes them happy or makes them feel good, and they go back to work. So that's one great thing.
Create a culture where volunteerism and giving back to your community in whichever way your employees feel is best fits their needs is acceptable. So what that looks for you in your company or your corporation is dependent upon the size of your staff, your employee base, and really your corporate responsibility goals. It's been touched upon a number of times around creating your corporate responsibilities business strategy so that the two are aligned. And I have witnessed in this position, and prior to this, I worked for the city of Stamford. I've seen that creating a culture where that type of volunteerism is available really does increase employee productivity and, of course, overall employee morale and happiness. One of the needs we find in the nonprofit community is board members. We need really qualified, good, engaged board members. So one of the programs we provide is called Board Serve Western Connecticut, and we just launched it last spring. And it is a training opportunity for you or someone on your team who would come for a 6-hour training to get an overview of board governance. So what it means to sit on a board, what the roles are, what the responsibilities are, and a general sense of nonprofit governance. So that is a really awesome way to engage employees because it gets your name out in the community. So it's Jane Smith, but Jane Smith works for Nestle Waters, and suddenly Nestle Waters' name is now on every board pamphlet that goes out, any communication that nonprofit is making. Your name as a company is now very visible in the community. And secondly, on that piece, it is a great way to develop skills. So I know from Elaine is in the room, and I actually sat on the St. Joseph's Parenting Center board, and frankly, I had never sat on a board before. And it really was an educational experience for me to sit in a room with highly qualified, very intelligent people trying to map the way for a new nonprofit in a community as large and as diverse as Stamford. And I feel like that experience was very developmental for me around financial budgeting, understanding the role that a board plays in guiding the mission of an organization. All of these skills are really important ways to develop, especially younger employees who may need some development skills. So those are some of my thoughts. It would be to create a corporate culture where volunteerism is embraced.
Partnerships come in all shapes, and I think any nonprofit that you would talk to, is open to that kind of negotiation. And so, they come in very large partnerships. One of the partnerships that I think is a great model is something that the Stanford Symphony has done with partnering with a high-end audio company and actually branding their season around that. Why? Audiences that come to Symphony are interested in sound and music, and they care about those kinds of things. So finding partnerships that really resonate with what you're trying to accomplish, but also understanding that it's also about the nonprofit, and that nonprofits do so much for our communities. We affiliate about 150 arts and culture nonprofits, and over the last year, just to kind of veer into an area that hasn't been covered, these nonprofits are businesses. They contribute to the economic health and welfare of our region. When individuals attend events, we found in our economic impact study that they actually are spending upwards of $30, between $26 and $30 in associated things. They're building the economy. Our organizations, of the 77 that we surveyed, contribute $139 million to the economy. They employed 4,000 people. So, there's real, to kind of put that spin on it too, and understand that supporting organizations is really helping to build the economic climate wherever you are.
A couple of years ago when I met my partner, we decided, he sits on the board of a couple of nonprofits, and we decided how could we set up a company that would be an ongoing machine to generate funds for non-for-profits and be sustainable and keep going every month, sending checks out to different non-for-profits. So we founded Salud, and Salud supports 30 charities right now, 30 non-for-profits. And we, when I met Gareth, we decided how could we set it up so that it didn't just write checks once or twice a year. We wanted to be able to maintain a flow of money to the charities every month on an ongoing basis. So we came up with the idea of the coffee that we produce now. We have a very high-end patented product, and 20% of any sales that are made by either donors or basically it's promoted to donor bases or to companies where if you have 100 employees or 50 employees, all we're asking is that if you switch your habit, simply switch to Salud, and 20% of everything that you use will go to the charity. So every month, these charities are collecting small checks or large checks, depending on how many employees they have, how many donors are going on the website and purchasing. Every year, the companies do gifting, so we have a lot of corporations, stockbrokers, real estate agents, people that gift to all of their clients. And every time they gift, they're giving to the charity. So it's not just a short-sighted one-off gifting process, they're gifting constantly.
Volunteers want to work with business smart not-for-profits that are strategic. They don't want to be, they want to align themselves with, people who got it all, the organizations that have it all together. Number two, you really need to find out about people and companies and what their passions are. It's really important. Most not-for-profits just go at individuals. Many times they do without really trying to really understand what they're passionate about, and it may not be what they do every day. So it's really important to sit down and develop intimate relationships with people who you think may be board members, good board members or active volunteers. They could just be advisors. You need to find out what it is they really want to do. You need to do your homework and find out which companies really strongly believe in, and their leadership really believes in community involvement. It's really important to identify board members who are very strategic and are doers. Coming from being on a board, I'm coming off many boards right now because it's very draining to sit next to non-doers. So try to keep that in mind. That's what you need to be looking for. Authentic messaging is very important to me. You, as a not-for-profit, need to really and truly understand who you are and what your mission is. And if you don't, then if you're trying to find partners, they're not going to believe you either. So authenticity is really important. And the more authentic you are and your organization is, I think you're going to have a much more successful time, securing people, funds, partners, and more. We use, in my company now, I work for a real estate developer. We own a lot of buildings and hotels in Stamford and in Norwalk and Southport. And our business development tactic is to be involved in the community. So my CEO and president is very involved in the community, and I spearhead all of the sales, marketing, and PR. And the way we drive our business is by getting involved in the community. And that is authenticity. People believe us because we are really doing what we say we're doing. We get out that my boss is, he probably sits on half a dozen boards, and he encourages everyone on our team to get involved in any charity that they're passionate about. We don't align our business with just real estate and hospitality or community development or economic development charities. It's really about the individuals in our company. So I don't know if, sometimes you really need to just find out about people. It's about just getting personal and intimate and developing intimate relationships.
I get at least 50 to 60 solicitations a week. People that are having functions, want us to donate or have something to do with it. I'm not going to really talk about volunteerism here. I think everybody feeling in this room that everybody should volunteer, everybody should find time to do something for someone else, how human nature is. I'm going to just mention a few things that, how do we decide who we're going to work with? As we get all these solicitations, I rarely say no to anybody. We pick and choose a couple throughout the year. We're having an event next week, Bennett breast cancer, something we are passionate about. But I will say this. I live in Stamford, I work in Stamford, and I'm very passionate about organizations that are local to me. So that when I am solicited from people, because the word's out there that we give, everybody tells me the word's out there. We're on every single auction book there is, we give, and we're happy to give. Small item, large item, that isn't the issue. But we live and work here, our kids went to school here, we're very local. And so that's where we decide where the cutoff is.
So Tom says to look for unusual opportunities. He gave the example of the TAG driving seniors buses as a place where you can promote what you're doing, but also partner for the betterment of the community. Julia says that you've got to partner with a specific agency, that the more specific you can be in terms of matching your goals would be the best for you. Tony asks you to know your philanthropic needs and think outside the box for events and partnerships. Bridget encourages you to create a culture where volunteerism is acceptable, and also that we need to be training people to be on boards. I totally agree with that, so that people on boards can know their expectations and feel comfortable with what they're doing. Ryan asks again for you to find the right relationships that are mutually beneficial to both organization, the nonprofit and the for-profit. David talked about his company. He reminded us that 20% of what you spend at Salute Coffee will go to a nonprofit, and the more we can get the word out about that, the more money will filter back into nonprofit agencies. Mia encourages you to know a person's passions, so that you and your company should be able to match a volunteer with the right person. And as a nonprofit, try and find somebody on your board who's a worker and a doer. And as a nonprofit, try and find for-profit companies that are active in cause marketing, which sounds to me like a Google search term, as well as understanding that the nonprofits that have authentic messaging will be more likely to attract money from the for-profit sector. And then Liz said, look, if you're going to approach me, understand that I'm a Stamford business. I live and work, and my kids went to school in Stamford. So understand that if you are for and about Stamford, I'm more likely to give to you.